Have you ever noticed that when a family member or a friend has a problem and they come to you for advice, that you deliver it in such a way that it makes total sense and you're actually able to help them out? But when you might have a similar issue in your own life, you don't take the same advice that you just gave to them. Why is that? Why is it easier for us to give advice to other people than it is for us to take our own advice and put it into action? Well, there's actually a term behind this. It's called the Solomon paradox. And I want to go into detail on why we do this and how we can stop ourselves from allowing this to happen and take our own advice and have more confidence in the things that we implant in our own lives. Let's dive into it. The concept of the Solomon paradox was actually introduced by a Canadian cognitive psychologist named Igor Grossman. This paradox refers to a psychological phenomenon where people tend to reason more wisely with other people's issues than they do their own. This leads us back to the initial statement, where think about a time in your life when you had someone who was asking you for advice. Maybe they were having relationship problems, or maybe they were being, bullied or abused in a relationship, or maybe they were having issues with their job and how to handle certain circumstances with their boss, and they were coming to you for life advice. What is the next move I should make? How should I handle this situation? And in that moment of time, you just tend to have the answer for them that they need to hear. And that answer is usually a pretty good answer, a very direct answer of how you would handle that particular situation. But what's interesting is that think about it and be honest with yourself. If you were put in the same position as them, would you follow your own advice? Well, the Solomon paradox basically explains that we tend to give better advice than we'll take on our own. So the answer is probably no. It is easier sometimes to give someone else advice, especially if they're trying to figure out whether they should break up with somebody or move on from a certain job because it just doesn't seem like it's the right fit or it's a toxic environment. But when you put yourself in their shoes, you tend to find every reason not to take the same advice that you gave them. And it could be difficult situations, it takes a lot of confidence to make a move where your whole life is about to change, especially if you're moving on from a relationship that you've been in for quite a while, but it's the right thing to do, but you're just so comfortable in it and everything is so easy in the sense of just being in that comfort zone with that person that it's hard to detach and move on and be on your own again. Same thing can happen with a job. If you know that the job is toxic, if you know you're not making enough money, if you know that it's not the right fit or the right place for you to be, it's easy to tell someone else that, hey, it's probably a good idea to move on, but are you willing to do the same exact thing? And sometimes the term "it's easier said than done" kind of comes into play here. So why do we do this? Why is it easier for us to give good advice, which normally is the right advice? I mean, you are caring for this person that you're talking to. You want to give them the advice they need so you see them better their lives and be in a better circumstance. So it probably is the right advice. It's just hard for you to accept if you're put in the same position. So why do we do this? And how can we snap out of this funk, we'll call it, of not taking our own advice? How can we build enough confidence to be able to say, what I told that person is the right thing to do. And if I'm put in this position, I need to be able to say, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take my own word. I'm going to take my own advice because I know it's the right thing to do. So how do we get to that point? How can we make that happen and not go down the same road that King Solomon did, where he's giving advice to other people, but completely failing in his personal life? Well, one of the first things that Igor Grossman kind of talks about is also talking in a third person. Instead of saying, why am I doing this? If it were me, I'd be saying, why is Jason doing this? Why does Jason feel that he can't move on and get out of this relationship or this job or this situation or this friendship that is so toxic? Why does he feel that he is stuck? What are the blocks that he is facing? And talk to yourself like you're talking to somebody else. It creates a psychological distance and it improves the clarity, because it's almost like you are trying to give somebody else advice, but you are actually trying to provide that advice to yourself. So when you talk to in the third person, it almost provides the same type of situation where you'd be giving a friend advice, but you're actually giving it to yourself. The second thing you can do is journal from a friend's viewpoint. Like if you were going to be giving this advice to somebody else, write down the situation like you were going to give that person advice. Like you were going to write a letter to a friend or a family member or whoever is going through this current situation. Write it out in that sense. Provide a pros and a cons list for them to look at. But the thing is, you are creating it for you. So as you're writing this journal out, what would you be telling them? Out of love, out of wanting to make sure that they are moving in a direction that is going to better their life and get them out of the situation that they're currently in, or whatever the situation may be for them, what would you write in that journal? What would you write in that letter to them? And what kind of pros and cons lists would you create so it made sense to them to understand the decision that they have to make? See, when you do this, it becomes a lot easier to look at and really figure out what you need to do, because at that point in time, you're taking it out of your own context. You're removing your own lack of confidence in the situation, your own fear level, your own limiting thoughts, and you're putting it on paper like you're going to give it to somebody else. But it allows you to be organic. It allows you to be natural in what you're writing without any hesitation, without any blocks, without anything stopping you. So when you read it back and you read it like you're reading it to a friend, there's going to be a lot of aha moments and it's going to make total sense to you. All right, so the third thing is very similar to the journaling. Look in the mirror or look somewhere, or maybe even have a picture of someone on the wall that you feel comfortable talking to, and talk to that wall, talk to the mirror, talk to that picture like you would a friend who's going through your current situation. And what this does is it allows you to, again, take the resistance away, remove whatever lack of confidence you might be facing, whatever your brain is going to trigger to keep you inside your comfort zone that you're in, because that's what the brain does. And we talked about this on many other episodes. It wants to keep you safe. So the natural thing for the brain to do is to give you every reason not to make a move that is going to get you outside of a comfort zone, that is going to change things for you, that is going to be challenging. It wants to keep you safe. The safest place for you to be is exactly where you are and not change anything. So what you need to do is trick your brain at the same time, which is why you're going to look at a mirror, or you're going to look at a picture, or look at a wall, whatever it is that you need to do that is going to be comfortable for you. And again, and you're going to talk to that person and you're going to lay out the situation and you're going to give them the wise advice. But what you are going to be doing is giving that advice to you. And it's going to come out very natural. It's going to come out without any hesitation, without anything holding you back on what needs to be said. And you will pay attention to it and it'll feel a lot better and more natural to you because of the setting that you're in. Thing is, it's still up to you to take action based on what you are telling that fake person or the wall or the mirror, whatever it is that you're looking at. Whatever it is that you're telling them to do, it's still up to you to take action and actually do it. The fourth thing is, think of someone that has been a mentor for you, or someone that's important in your life, someone that you hold dear to the advice that they give you. And maybe this is a situation, if it is, that you just don't feel comfortable talking about it with them yet, or you're just not ready for that particular type of conversation to be had. Think of them. Sit down, pretend they're in front of you and say, hey, what do you think about this situation? And really think about what they would respond with. Would they tell you to stay in a toxic relationship? Would they tell you to stay in a job that feels like it's a dead end? Would they tell you to stay friends with someone who keeps pulling you down and having you do things that really are going to put you in a bad direction in your life? They're going to be honest with you. And that point in time where you were sitting down pretending like you're talking to that person, honesty is going to come out, and the thoughts of honesty are going to be implanted in your brain, and it's going to come differently with how the brain processes that information, which is ultimately going to help you realize what decision you need to make. All right, and the last thing is have some compassion for yourself. Understand the situation that you are in. Look at the totality of where you are in that current situation that you are most likely trying to get out of, or figure out what direction you need to go, and think about where you want your life to be. Where do you want to go? What direction do you want to be? Where do you want to be a year or two from now? And if you think about it in terms of that and have some, compassion for who you are, and, really take advantage of, providing yourself with some great affirmations and love yourself and build yourself up, build yourself some self-confidence, and say, you know what? Where do I deserve to be in a year or two from now? Where do I deserve to be in 6 months? And is the situation I'm in right now going to help me get there? Because I deserve that outcome. God wants us to have an abundant life. He says it many times in the Bible. So whatever it is that is holding you back currently from having the life that you want, you need to start loving yourself, and you need to start building yourself up. And again, have some compassion for yourself, but also know that that life that you want is entirely up to you, and it could just take that one move outside your comfort zone that will get you there. So as unique and interesting that the Solomon Paradox is, it kind of does make a lot of sense, because if you really think about how easy it is for you to give others advice and how natural it comes out of you to offer that advice to them, it goes for the same for you. You just got to get out of your own lack of limitational thoughts, your own belief system that maybe you feel like you don't deserve a certain outcome, and that's what's holding you back. You really got to look deep down and figure out, what are my blocks and how do I remove them? And those 5 different steps can absolutely help you get past that. But no matter what happens, it's still up to you to take action and move in the direction toward the resolution that you want. When I first heard about this whole concept, I found it absolutely fascinating, and it's something I've been wanting to share for a while. So I hope this video helps you guys out. I hope you can put this into practice. I hope you can still help your friends and family and those you care about with some wise advice, but at the same time, help yourselves with the same advice and move yourself toward a life that you ultimately desire.